As a kid, I always contemplated life's most important question. Not where did I come from, not where am I going, but why am I here? The free will that eludes that question has always been a gift, a curse, and an area of deep examination for me. But I believe in this thing we call love, and that you can't have love without having the ability to choose. So, therefore, love and free will intrinsically get weaved together. So, there you have it. Freedom of choice is in me. And there I was, looking like an early 90s troubled teen on a daytime talk show, young, dumb, broke, without a clue, wondering why am I here and what am I going to do with my life? Growing up, we didn't have much, but we had everything. I was an American poor kid, layaway, ramen soup, Santa didn't bring enough gifts. Not like the poor kids your parents guilted you into finishing your plate for. But money was a thing. And I loathed not having certain things, as well as the freedoms and restrictions to live the way I wanted to live. I always wanted to be successful and in control. I never had a real job. I worked at a restaurant and then started my own business. No boss, driving against traffic, my way, my ideas. I catch myself saying I escaped, like comparing it to the Jay-Z line where he talks about, I escaped, I never had a job. But like, I do understand. Jay-Z's talking about drug dealing and worldwide mega fame, and I'm talking about junk removal and waiting tables. I didn't escape nothing. If at 12, you'd say, my life experiences had me wise beyond my years, then by my mid-20s, you'd say that I had already passed that senior stage where most of my closest friends had started to pass away. I had this great group of friends, and one of my closest friends died in an absolute tragedy. And from there, many soon followed. Events like this made me introspect. So profound to me was 20 minutes. I understand, although I don't, my friend that died in the tragedy. But the people that were at the tragedy when it happened all wound up passing away over the next 10 years. And the ones who got there 20 minutes later are all extremely successful. That's where I get confused. I don't understand why one event can have such separate outcomes with people. For me, feeling that sort of pain at that age, I tended to not care so much what risks I'd have to take in life. When you have nothing to lose. It always amazes me how everybody has such a clear understanding about how other people should lead their lives, but never any understanding about their own. This was my mid-20s mindset, and then this happened. My friend Joe's dad got us into Local 3 of the electric union. Top pay $250K, a dream job by any stretch, especially to us. Joe tormented me for years, but at the last minute, I turned it down. My Nana had just gotten cancer, and my mother got tasked with cleaning out her house in Queens and moving her to Long Island. She put an ad in the paper, old stuff out, brings the money in, let us show you where to begin. From there, she started one of Long Island's first estate sale companies. I then started cleaning out and doing small deliveries for my mother's clients. I hated to work, but something intrigued me. All of these clients were going through one of life's hardest transitions, and the only solution was a fragmented system of hiring multiple companies. I was done with college, sick of waiting tables, nearing my mid-20s, and growing ever so complacent with feeling trapped in what am I going to do with my life. I had the dream job with Joe on the table, but at the last minute, I scraped and borrowed and purchased my first box truck for $4,000. Fun fact, any hip-hop fans, I named the company Relocators because the day I incorporated, I had that Warren G song with the great intro in my head. Regulators! These years sucked. I was self-employed, self-sufficient, sort of, but every day was a battle, and mistakes were the rule, not the exception. But I loved the people analyzing. I would make dumb mistakes like putting gas in a diesel truck right before a job. These were catastrophic and hit double hard. First off, every big mistake was like a viral invitation to alert the naysayers and advice givers to call. And second, rental fees and repair costs were costs I could barely absorb at the time. Frustration and anger would build to the point where one time I actually threw a cinder block through my windshield and declared, I'm done. I had 2 workers at the time, and I remember their shock and awe. Later that night when I calmed down, I thought to myself, though, imagine if this had happened last year when I used to have to get gas 3 times a day just to pay for my day's workload. That memory was a sign I was doing better. And I remember using it as an omen to say, keep going. In the beginning, I'd be in a clean out. In a dusty, dirty basement, I'd marvel at hundreds of jelly jars, lids nailed to the ceiling, every nut and bolt sorted meticulously. Who has the time? Why do they do this? Do they not have sex? Is there nothing on TV? To live such a miserable existence, spending all your time in a basement, trapped, sorting screws and outlining where your tools should go. Later, I thought about this from the perspective of someone who understands the complexities of intimate relationships. They weren't trapped. They were free. These men were escaping. And worst of all, I'd walk into the most shit-filled disgust of a hoarder's house, looking human beings in the eye, terrified of how I was going to look at them. And I would just give a plan with an unjudging eye. But I never understood why, until I realized almost every one of them suffered a loss so far beyond anything I could comprehend that their de facto mental response was to never let anything go again, ever. I loved what I learned these years, but I was by no means a business owner. If I wanted to be a business owner, I'd need different lessons and bigger risks. When it came time to, I got them from mentors as well as diving into audiobooks. After 2013, I never got on a truck again. In estimates, I got a much deeper understanding about the human condition. If you Google life's biggest stressors, the list comes out: death, divorce, moving, serious illness. But moving, it's a trade. How does it come before cancer? Strangers come and take all your stuff, but your stuff are just things. Things mean nothing. But the memories you attach to the things, that means everything. And a shocking dichotomy I learned at this time. Whether a family has 1 sibling or 10, when a parent dies, a dynamic of 3 personalities shows up. The caretaker, they feel entitled, and rightfully so. They did all the real work, but they never understand that the real work doesn't count when it comes to the will. The executor, they're making big decisions, but they're resented, especially if there's somebody in finance or accounting in the family. Then it's really good. And third, the one that doesn't give a shit. Filled with apathy, they just want their cut. The irony to me was the will of the deceased, no pun intended, goes right out the window by the simple fact of them dying. My company grew, the workload, taking on client stress, caring for employees, imposter syndrome. I found myself on Sundays dreading the upcoming work week. I made it through that by remembering that when I was a kid, I was terrified of Sundays. I lived in suburban Long Island, but I spent a lot of time at my dad's firehouse in early 90s crack epidemic Harlem. The men, the lessons, the chaos calmed me. I felt safe there. Back home Sunday night in the suburbs, the chaos scared me. Somewhere between big risks, materializing and working out, and my biggest fears coming together and not being so bad, the fears dissipated. With it came hyper-focus in the plan going forward, as well as instincts with decisions. Joe from Local 3 is still a close friend of mine, and he comes around my buildings and fixes lights after work in the city. I look forward to that. We always have a laugh, inside joke, about his earlier advice. If you know me today, you would know that the word no doesn't apply to me. You would hear things like, the universe follows him, what a small world, what a coincidence, or best of all, luck. Luck to me is just a state of mind. Luck is just a pivotal moment where preparation meets point of opportunity. The dots always connect. I believe that. You can only see them looking backwards, so you just have to be aware. Around 2016, someone said to me, TGIM. It became like a rallying cry for like 20 to 30 people in my circle. We would all text it to each other at 5 a.m. on Monday morning to pump ourselves up. I liked it, so I made it my license plate. One day I was running to my kid's school, and the security guard looks at me with an appalled face. Does that say, thank God it's Monday? Why in the... Before I could even think, the words struck through my brain and into my mouth, because 99% of the world screams TGIF and 1% holds all the wealth. That was it. I figured it out. And 30 years later, I laugh because the kid scared of Sundays is not the reason I'm out here thanking God for Mondays. And over the course of those 30 years, I've had many instances where frustrations and anger build, like that time where I threw the cinder block through the windshield. But instead, I replaced that windshield and I created my own circumstances. And what followed was growth. Growth in an organization of over 7 companies, multiple locations, over 20 vehicles, thousands of clients that we care for during extremely stressful times, and over 60 employees, most of which have grown with the company. Although moments like that, where I'm not sure of the future, still do come up. Remember the cinder block story? One of the workers has gone on to become a close friend and manager of mine. One day recently, I was having one of those nights and he was passing my office. I started spewing out all the coulda, woulda, shouldas. I don't want to do this anymore. He cuts me off. Go home, bro. Tomorrow, go buy another windshield. Thank you.